Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I wanted to talk about Feast, which is a delightfully trashy, fast-paced, and funny monster movie that is definitely underrated. Perhaps its best aspect is how thoroughly it trashes horror tropes while still managing to be actually scary at the same time. It swaps back and forth between horror and comedy faster than I can keep track of, and for example, each character in the movie is given a little intro with a life expectancy. But the narration for the story as a whole, and thus for the characters, is unreliable, so the life expectancies aren't exactly accurate. And yeah, I know I just showed a character dying, but it's quite an old movie now, so there will be spoilers, and this happened in the very first 5 minutes of the movie. For a little historical context, Feast was filmed in 2005 as the end result of HBO's Project Greenlight Season 3. You may remember this as the HBO show about aspiring filmmakers getting a chance to film their first movie, getting some big budget funding from Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and through the Wes Craven Company and some things like that. They had to go through a whole series of projects and script submissions, but at the end of this third season, Feast was the movie that they decided to fund and produce. Without Project Greenlight, this movie never would have been made because the people involved were, well, amateurs, and considering how truly god-awful the sequels were, maybe it shouldn't have been made at all. But we're not going to talk about those awful sequels. I want to talk about Feast. It's a really fun 80s style monster movie. It's kind of got the classic isolated group of people thing going on about a group of random strangers trapped in a desert bar surrounded by fast-moving monsters out in the middle of nowhere in Arizona. These monsters are incredibly fast, they look terrifying, and they also hump things a lot. God almighty! There's no CGI in the movie, so all of the monsters are made with really good practical effects and camera trickery. On top of that, you don't see them a whole lot until near the end of the movie. That doesn't make them dangerous, and it's not you wait an hour to see the monster, but it's not 100% about the monster. The monsters are really well designed, they're really fun, and they are legitimately scary and occasionally funny. But what makes this movie really fun is just how much it gives you something unexpected and real feeling at the same time, because some of the things that real life people do can be silly and funny even in bad situations. For examples, when people get sprayed with blood, they try to clean it up, and sometimes cleaning blood off your body can be a little inappropriate.
Act like you've had some.
The body they used for bait isn't really dead, but in shock, because most people pass out when they're injured. Children most certainly are not safe in this movie. The old lady, who quite possibly is the smartest character in the entire movie, just decides to hide in the freezer and wait it out. The bartender just nopes right the hell on out of this situation, makes it to a truck, and drives away scot-free like everybody else said was impossible. And kind of fun, near the climax of the movie, the old man who's fighting monsters has a heart attack because he just can't keep up with all the chaos. Overall, the production quality is very high for this type of film. It doesn't feel cheap, it doesn't feel like it's underfunded, it doesn't feel poorly edited or acting. It's not an amazing Oscar-winning type thing, but there is some good acting out of the main three characters, Bozo, Hot Wheels, and Heroine number 2. Also, props to the douchey motivational speaker guy who's trying to motivate everybody, but is kind of counterproductive. The pacing is incredibly fast, so you never really get a chance to get bored or overthink anything. Overall, this is a movie that knows how to have fun without having to be anything more complicated than what it is. And I think that, more than anything, is what makes this movie underrated. This movie understands exactly what it is, exactly the audience that will watch it, and it manages to be fun at the same time. It's a great horror movie for most any kind of situation, well, where a horror movie is appropriate, and it manages to be legitimately scary without being depressing. Just a pro tip, though, here at the end of the episode, the sequels are awful. They're some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen Actimus Maximus, War of the Alien Dinosaurs. I'm not sure what happened with the writer, director, team here, but it went downhill really, really fast. That's all for this episode of Underrated. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you check out Feast. Drifter out.